And, I guess this might have been the most intimidating part of it. Ron said, Mitch, if you will, hand me that bungee cord in the glove compartment. I said, why does he need a bungee cord? In my mind, I didn't say anything. I just kind of handed it to him.
Right. Thomas Roach here. We're at the Senior Life Insurance Company home office, and we are all fired up. Today we got a very special guest, and I'm going to allow our guest to introduce himself. If you go ahead, sir.
Be glad to, Thomas. Thank you for having me here this morning. My name is Mitch Conner, Vice President with Senior Life Insurance Company.
Now, Mitch, you've been with the company for quite a long time, before the company even existed. If you could kind of explain maybe how you got started in insurance and how you got started in the Senior Life family.
Be glad to. Actually, I had just gotten honorably discharged from the Air Force in 1989.
Okay.
I was fortunate enough to be able to finish with a bachelor's degree at Valdosta State, and actually sent out about 500 resumes 6 months prior to my departure from the Air Force, thinking that I'd be very marketable.
Right.
But it was a downtime in the economy, or at least that's the excuse I'm using.
Okay, that's what we'll say.
There you go. Anyway, long story short, ended up coming to work with Dell and Ron Powell in 1989. Is the matter of fact, December of '89 was when Ron trained me.
So Ron trained you, as I remember the story going, and you're going to have to clarify it for me. It was around Christmas time.
It was the week of Christmas. I think Christmas on that year was on Thursday, so we actually worked Monday, Tuesday, and half a day on Christmas Eve before we came home.
And Ron was still able to help you make sales that week.
Oh, yeah, well...
Because the misconception is Christmas week or the holiday season or December to January is a hard time for agents, a hard time for selling, but just firsthand, you realize that wasn't the case.
Yeah, it really was not. That week, we sold... I think it was 8 or 9 applications, and for a total annual premium of $4,500. And it was direct mail,
right,
in Macon, Georgia.
Okay.
So we left on a Monday morning. Probably left about 6:30, 7 o'clock. Got to Macon 2.5 hours later. We didn't even go to the motel. I thought we'd at least have a time to go drop our clothes off in the motel, but we knocked on our first door probably about 9:30 or 10 in Macon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'll never forget it.
Now, Ron is about 4 or 5 years younger than you. What was that like? You've already had a military career at that point. You've already gotten your bachelor's degree at that point, and now you have a teenager.
Yeah.
Who's brand new.
Teenager.
Training you. What was that like?
When you're going through something like that, you don't really think what it's like, but now looking back, it's amazing the kind of drive that Ron Powell had at such a young age. But knowing who he is today and the kind of drive he has also, with some of the setbacks he's had with his health and things of that nature, it was just, for him it's everyday life, but for a lot of people they sit back and they're in awe of the way that he just has that burning desire to succeed.
Yes.
And he even had that burning desire to succeed at a very young age.
As a teenager?
As a teenager.
So
he sure did.
You didn't feel intimidated? You didn't feel awkward having this kid showing you the ropes, and you already had your career and everything? It wasn't a big deal?
No, it was not. You got to understand with Ron, he's not your typical 19-year-old.
Right.
Just like he's not your typical insurance agent, agency manager, and now the president of the company. He's a visionary, and that, even at such a young age, you could sense that. And if I could skip forward a few years.
Okay.
I can remember the time, he was probably at that time 24, 25 years old. We were riding in a little town called Pinehurst, Georgia. We were working leads. I'll never forget. These are defining moments.
Definitely.
In my life and the life of Senior Life.
Right.
Ron started asking me about my background in college, and actually it was just a business degree in general studies with a focus on human resources.
Okay.
He was wondering if I had any accounting background, and I said, no, but I'm sure I can learn. But I said, why do you ask? He said, well, I've been thinking, one day I think we're going to buy our own insurance company. And he was 24 maybe at that time.
So it's not even like it's around the mid-90s at this point.
No. About mid-90s.
Yeah.
So I think it was 6 years later, maybe 5 years later.
Right.
2000.
Yeah.
The dream came to fruition.
At 25, he already knew.
He already knew
the direction he wanted to go in.
He did.
And that wasn't scary for you or made you nervous at all to have somebody so young to have such big aspirations at the time?
No, it inspired me. It really did. We all have struggles, and I don't want to get into my particular dysfunctional background coming up as a teenager, being the oldest of 4 boys and things like that. But I never thought I'd have an opportunity to be part of something as great and fulfilling and opportunity that we have here at Senior Life. It's been a long road,
Speaking of a long road, Ron Powell drove down that road in a car that was... See, when it comes to success, people always look at the end of success, or they look at the right now whenever you're doing very well, and people don't really look at how things used to be or where they originated from. So when he was training you, and I know that you guys worked a lot of leads outside of the state and traveled all over the Southeast... he did not have the nicest car at the time.
No, he did not. He had what was called a hatchback Celica, Toyota Celica.
Right.
And just to give you a better understanding of what it was like that first week, this actually happened the first week.
The first week.
The very first week. On Monday morning, as we're driving up I-75.
You, a 19-year-old in a hatchback Celica.
In a hatchback Celica. So we're driving up the interstate, and, I guess this might have been the most intimidating part of it. Ron said, Mitch, if you will, hand me that bungee cord in the glove compartment. I said, why does he need a bungee cord? In my mind, I didn't say anything. I just kind of handed it to him. And unbeknownst to me, he said, yeah, I have to wrap this thing around the gear shifts sometimes to keep it in 5th gear. So here, the week of Christmas, on a Monday morning, we're riding up the interstate.
Right.
I hand him a bungee cord to keep it in gear. So he says, you can make a lot of money. And
As you
I'm
hand
thinking,
him a bungee cord.
so why haven't you bought a new car?
Right.
But the reality is he did show me that week, what it would take to be successful. And like I said, he wrote about $4,500 annualized premium the week of Christmas.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Now, you kind of talked about before in the past about, with our theme being for 2019, mindset is everything. You had mentioned before, and you've told me before, that your mindset wasn't in the right place in the beginning. You said like it might have been a temporary situation. You were just looking for something for the time being, and you actually wound up leaving. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Mindset is everything. And it says a lot more about me than it does about the opportunity, and let me explain that.
Right.
I was not prepared to take full advantage of this opportunity because my mindset was not where it needed to be. And the reason it wasn't there was because in reality I didn't have the kind of belief in myself that I needed to have to really grab a hold of a great opportunity, okay? And what I did, without getting into a long story, I just really made excuses, for my failures. Everybody else got the best leads, they worked the best territories, and things of that nature. That's what I would tell my wife, okay? Well, then, when I was on the road with the agents working and things like that, I would say, I might need to find something else because my wife, we're expecting our first child, and I think I need to be home at more at night and things like that instead of in the motel rooms. So in reality, I was using the opportunity and excuses of not having the best lead as an excuse for not taking ownership. And then I was turning around and using my own family as an excuse for my failures. So it took me leaving for a year.
For a whole year?
For a whole year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the thing is I learned a lot about myself during that time, and I wasn't scared to work. I've never been scared to work.
Right.
But I realized as much time as I was putting in the other job, and it was actually in the insurance industry as a debit door-to-door collection, sales, and that type thing. So if I had just had the mindset of working harder at what I was already doing, I would have achieved a lot greater success.
So what caused the change though after the year and going door to door doing the debit stuff?
Okay.
When did your mindset change?
Well, I started seeing the success that Ron was having. Okay. And he actually reached out to me and said, "Look, we're in a position that we can grow bigger." I mean, at this point in time, he's still 21, 22 years old, and he's reaching out to me, wanting me, to come back and be part of it. So we started talking, and I saw that, the opportunity was bigger than what it was just a few years, or actually just a year earlier. So I talked with my wife, and I said, the reason we didn't make it before was I took ownership. I said I was making excuses, okay? But in order for us to be successful and for me to really provide like I want to for our family, I need to have your support, okay? And here's a little story. And I've told this story many times because things like this, I think, help all of us get a better understanding of what we need to be successful. We need each other.
Absolutely.
You got to have support. The day that I left to go back to work on Monday morning, I was leaving the house about 6 a.m. My daughter, my oldest daughter, Mary Elizabeth, was at that time almost 1 year old and beginning to talk. And my wife, to show her support to me as a wife and showing that she was going to be behind me, she actually taught my daughter to say a few words and put a sentence together. And as I kissed them goodbye that morning, I'll never forget, my daughter kissed me on the cheek, and she said, "Dada, make me money."
Make me money.
Thank God she's married now.
Right.
But anyway, that's kind of, mindset. It's everything. And I know the more time I spend in this business, the older I get, that just rings truer and truer every year.
Now, that being the theme of 2019, you actually coined the term for the company. So I guess just in general, when you're speaking on that, mindset is everything. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to our agents?
As I think back over my career and over the careers of many people, a lot of our success or failure hinges on our mindset, okay? Our mindset can be our greatest asset, or it can be a debilitating liability. And I'll be the first to admit, my mindset every day is not where it needs to be, but I've set some disciplines up in my life, and I've put people around me that I can look to straighten me out when I need it. I always welcome feedback. I'm not one who thinks I know it all.
Right.
Matter of fact, I don't think I've ever had an original thought in my life.
No, I'm sure you've had plenty.
Everything, I've learned it from somewhere.
Right.
I've become a life learner. I read a lot. I spend time around people whom I want to emulate and be like. So, if your mindset is not where it needs to be, take control of that. And, feed your mind, feed your soul by being around the right people. Feed your attitude by reading positive books and things that, everybody's different. But find those things that will help you stop allowing things that you can't control to control you.
There it is.
Yeah, that was always my life theme, and through the years, I don't know where I've picked it up, but I learned it from somewhere. Don't allow what you can't control to control you. Okay, so you have to be you can't be passive.
Right.
You got to be intentional. Reading, hanging around the right people,
right.
taking care of your mind, your body, and your soul. I think all of it goes hand in hand.
Well, speaking of mindset is everything, and speaking of souls, you did depart from us for a little while. You retired as an agent, as an RVP,
Right.
at a time when you had one of the top agencies. I believe it was you and another agency every month was neck and neck. So you
And we won't mention that guy's name,
right? But
even though he was my hero and still is.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But you constantly were neck and neck. You constantly, every other month, were the number one agency. You had a tremendous amount of success, both in the insurance business as well as financially at that point. And then you got a call.
Yes, I did.
What was that
I got
about?
a call to become a pastor. Actually, I had been pastoring bivocationally, which that means you just work 2 full-time jobs.
Right. Right.
At a small church. That's something that actually I had ran from for many years. Okay, I wasn't raised in church, but later on in life, I definitely knew that God was calling. But again, my mindset wasn't quite ready to take that responsibility. So I had been pastoring for 5 years bivocationally, and at age 49, I can remember distinctly, and I don't have time to tell you the story, excuse me, but it was a God-ordained calling for me to leave senior life and to go be in the ministry full-time. Little did I know that was just going to be a 6-year season for me. Right. I was 49. I came back to the corporate side a little over a year ago.
Yep.
And, this is what I believe. I know God called me back to be a part of where senior life is and where senior life is going for a purpose greater than me. And I believe that everything we experience in life, if we will allow God to, He'll take those experiences and shape our hearts so that we can have influence in the life of other people, okay? I don't pretend to know everything.
Right.
But God has changed my heart in such a way that I want to be a person of influence in people's lives, and I believe through senior life that I can have a great impact on many, many people's lives.
Absolutely.
Through the opportunity and through the ability just to offer advice and encouragement and direction, So that's my heart.
There it is.
And I'm thankful to be back.
A man with a lot of history in the business, a man with a lot of strong convictions, a lot of positivity, from being an agent to becoming a pastor to now being back as a vice president in the company. How does that help you when you're communicating and working with our current sales force?
Yeah, I love it. Even before, when I was on the commission side for 24, 25 years, I was an advocate for everyone winning, home office, field force, that type thing. But I think that now it gives me an opportunity to play an even bigger role because I think it helps me to connect the home office to the field force and vice versa, so that they can work together better for the future. And I think that's something that's very innovative in what we do. Not all of our home office staff, but a large portion of them get to experience on a regular basis sales. And that's something that Ron wanted to put into place because he thinks it's important, and I do as well, that our home office staff understands what the agents go through.
Absolutely.
So I think that's just wise, and I think it just makes us more cohesive and able to work together and create an environment where everyone can win.
What does the sales force mean to you personally?
Oh yeah, to me, it takes everybody to be successful. But I've been out there in the field. I know how hard it is. I've had those moments in my career where, you just didn't know if you were going to be able to pull it off, So the sales force to me are kind of the people on the front lines. Yes, we need the home office. We certainly do.
Absolutely.
They're very important, all aspects of the home office. But the sales force, they're the people on the front lines. They're the ones who face more rejection than most people should at any given time.
Right.
You know, sometimes you just don't know when it's going to stop. You know, it's very up and down on the, sometimes you have those emotional highs and then those extreme lows. And I really want to provide all the help and experience I can to our sales force, because we need each other.
Yes.
But let's face it, without sales coming in, there would be no Senior Life.
There would be no us without them.
So they go through a lot to help us be who we are. Okay?
Definitely. Speaking of that and talking about the future, and you know, as a man that's been definitely heavily involved with the company's past, where do you see the future of Senior Life, short term or long term? Just where do you see the future of Senior Life?
Yeah, you know, I'm slow. Okay, so
whatever.
it's taken a while for Ron Powell to rub off on me.
Okay.
But I have a bigger vision for Senior Life than I've ever had. The opportunity is greater than it's ever been, and I see this company being the largest final expense company in America within the next 5 years to 7 years. And we've got a game plan in place to make it happen. We've got the people to make it happen, and we have the desire to make it happen. We are positioned so that we can not only change a lot of people's lives with the products that we offer, but we can also change a lot of people's lives in their career opportunities that we offer. So, you know, I'm excited. I don't know. I've always wanted to be a coach. When I was coming up in high school, you know, I was football, baseball, that type thing. Went to college for a couple of years before the Air Force, and I always wanted to be a coach. And at that time, young and dumb, I didn't follow through, and I thank God for that.
Right.
Because His ways are not our ways, and He can redeem a lot of things that we think have been wasted. But that desire that I have to be a coach now is what I get to do every day.
Yeah, definitely.
So I get to pour in to people, and we're in a position at Senior Life now to win the big game.
Definitely.
You know, the Super Bowl with final expense.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Speaking of being a coach, there's a person that works with Legacy Assurance. Legacy Assurance, of course, is a company that our agents have the ability to become advocates for, and our agents are able to partner with, and it is managed and run by your daughter.
Yes, it is. And you're going to make me cry. I'm sorry.
So what is, like, as far as your daughter, Catherine Conner, who was on a previous episode, what has it been like for you to see how much she's grown and blossomed in the last few years?
You know, to see her grow and blossom is a blessing in itself, but here's another side of that blessing that a lot of people don't realize. Catherine, she was a teenager when I retired and went into full-time ministry. And there's no gray area with her. She's black and white. You know, she calls it like she sees it. And she's a loving person, but she keeps things close to her vest. And even as her father, I didn't realize this, but I was heartbroken when I shared with the family that God was calling me into full-time ministry for this reason. She cried like I'd never seen her cry before, and she told me that at that point she had hoped that we would be able to work together and she would be part of my agency in the future. I didn't realize at the time that I would be coming back. So, you know, it is such a blessing to be able to work along with her, side by side with her sometimes in the interactions that we have with Legacy Assurance. You know, I don't get to see her every day.
Right.
You know, so I'm just a blessed man.
There you go.
I really, truly am.
There you go. Before we get out of here, if you got any like parting words, anything you want to say to our sales force?
Well, before I say anything to the sales force, I want to thank you, Thomas, for what you do to help Senior Life be who it is, and I mean that sincerely.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you know, we've been around each other for a long time.
10 years.
Yeah, and it has been a blessing to see how you have developed in your career and how you're having such a great impact, not only on the future of Senior Life, but also on the people who fall under your leadership.
Well,
So
thank you. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
now to the agents and managers and leaders, RVPs, wherever you are in your career, let me share this with you. You may feel like you're at the top of success. You're at the pinnacle of success in your career. You may feel that you're at your lowest point. But regardless of where you are, there's more for the future. And I truly believe that if your mindset's not where it needs to be, or even if you think you've reached the best you've ever been in your thinking, think bigger. This opportunity is bigger than it's ever been. And I really want you and your family and your people that you work with day in and day out to experience the success and the future that I believe Senior Life is going to provide. You know, a lot of people go through life and they say, if I could just find a job where they pay me what I'm worth, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I challenge you, if that's your thinking, to change your mindset and have this. I want to take full advantage of the opportunity that I have at Senior Life because I know there that I'm going to get paid what I earn. There's a big difference than getting paid what you think you're worth versus getting paid what you earn. I appreciate you, each and every one of you.
There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, Vice President, Mr. Mitch Conner, I appreciate you coming on the show today. You're a huge inspiration to me and many, many people between our agents and our home office staff. You've helped me out greatly in my career, and you help a lot of people every single day, and you're very much appreciated. So we thank you being on the podcast today.
I'm glad to be here.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love this kind of stuff. Let's do more of it. I can't wait to see who you have on in the next few weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be really awesome. But
Great.
Like we always say, it's Senior Life.
All your life.
All your life.